Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Monday night. Hope you're all safe and well, obviously. Welcome to the study. Welcome to this week's live record of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast. We have got, I can show you them. They're all muted. I can show you them. Here you go. Look. And if they wave, they can't talk. But there we go. Look. It's like blankety blank. We've got Andy Ward off of ITV Anglia, Steve Sanders, Dan Brigham, regulars, although it's the first time I've done a pod with Dan this year, this season, which we'll obviously talk about when we start recording the pod, which is great. So that's grand. It's been 3 weeks since we've done a live one, so expect carnage. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, which reminds me, I do need to share the Facebook. So I am just going to do that now. It's obviously very rude and not ideal, but I can't do it until and that's why it always does this. I can't do it until it actually goes live. So it's not very exciting for you guys. But obviously we are going to tonight talk about Brighton, which is exciting. Got no goals to talk about, but we still have plenty to talk about. Obviously, we'll look ahead to Chelsea, which is coming up, which should be fun. And I guess we'll talk about some bits in the middle. I've managed to collate the star sign puns, so that'll be exciting for later on. Of course, any comments for any part of the pod, get them in. We won't be looking at them religiously, but if you do get them in and you want to say something, Steve will try and keep an eye on them as they come through. That's the plan, and we will try and do that over the coming weeks as we bed into live podcasting, although it has now been about 3 months, so maybe the season will be over by the time we are fully bedded in, and then we'll have to remember how to do it all again, although I'm probably talking about myself. I have shared that everywhere it needs to go, which is exciting. It's exciting for all of us because it means we can crack on. So in that case, I reckon we get on with it, shall we? This is exciting. Let's see if I can play the right video this time, because I didn't do that last time, did I? Someone found that quite amusing. So away we go. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let's have a belter of a show, and let's be done by 9 o'clock. That's my own personal goal for this evening. Off we go. Hello, all, everyone, every pew, every human, every person. Welcome to the 83rd edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that hits the spot just like Josh Sargent from 22 yards. I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries. Oh, that is a cheap shot, isn't it? Very odd. I am Michael Bailey. Hello there. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well. On the way, goals are overrated anyway. Normal for Norman, and a touch of the Tuchels. I'm still not quite used to not calling him Tuchel, but there we go. We'll work through all that and more with our guests this fine evening. They are Norwich number one chief at NCFCnumbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Evening, Michael.
We also have former Norwich City head of content and program editor, Dan Brigham.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Indeed. And making his On the Ball debut, ITV Anglia broadcast journalist and City fan, Andy Ward.
Hi, Michael.
There we all are. The introductions are in. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. How terribly exciting. Steve, how are you? It feels like a long time since we've done a live video podcast, although I think we were on the last... Were we on the last audio one together? I literally can't remember.
I think it's been 3 weeks.
Is that all?
In which time we've had no goals, but we are undefeated. I feel like that's not going to be the last cheap shot at Josh Sargent tonight. I mean, you started. If we're starting as we mean to go on, he's in for a rough ride tonight.
Well,
I think
it'll be the last one from me. Probably.
You've already had someone say that your Josh Sargent line was incredible. So and the chat. So that's
Josh
a
Sargent's
record.
Finish from 22 yards. There we go. Have you been keeping well, Steve? What was the highlight of your international break?
Oh God!
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I have been keeping well. I don't know what the highlight was. I went to Erpingham House at the weekend, the restaurant owned by none other than Russell Martin, to keep it Norwich City. That was nice. Fully vegan. I'm a hipster now. Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. So would recommend. That's the most boring anecdote you'll have tonight, I should think.
You know what?
I went to a restaurant, Michael.
Russ will be sitting at home thinking two good things. We beat Cardiff at home in the South Wales derby, and got a great review on the On the Ball podcast for the restaurant. So I think you've probably made Russ this weekend. Yeah, 50-50. It doesn't need to be ranked. It's fine. Dan.
Michael, good to see you. Are we going to just keep name dropping Erpingham House tonight? Maybe see what we can get from that.
Is that the idea?
Yeah. Or have I been left out of that?
Bit of product placement. Well, yeah, it's quite pricey, so I wouldn't mind some money off next time.
Well, there we go. the reviews were going quite well. Well, maybe that's why we need a free meal. I don't think we can. That sort of smacks in the face of integrity. Here's someone who has much more integrity than any of us. It's Andy Ward. Andy, welcome.
Cheers,
how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. It's been a good weekend. Didn't go to Erpingham House. So I've missed out on that one, but yes, it's been a good weekend. Thank you.
We should say happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Yeah. I was 31 yesterday.
Ooh, so, okay.
Yeah. So in the 30s.
Football peak? I don't know. Is that a bit? I mean, if you were a footballer now,
you'd be over the peak, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like one more contract.
Yeah. I'd be struggling, wouldn't I? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Hey, I'm probably getting too old for vets already, so don't worry about that. Well, yeah. I hope you had a lovely birthday. That's grand. Thanks for joining us. Should we? Obviously, your main job is ITV Anglia, and I don't know how much we should go into your football supporting roots, but tough because you're on this podcast, that's obvious. But could you paraphrase in sort of 20 seconds your Norwich City story? You know, who's your favourite players, best memory, that sort of stuff.
Oh God, that's a tough question. Well, I first started watching them when I was probably about 5 or 6, and actually the first game I went to, obviously I was only little. I was sick over the person in front. That was the story. If you ask my dad, so,
outstanding.
Was it Southampton at home? I don't know what the score was, but I'd had too many sweets that day and was sick over the man in front. But apart from that, I mean, and then it was all in my blood. And I think the best ever game was the 3-2 against Derby. You know, when Simeon scored that goal. I think that's the one that stands out for me. So yeah, and the Man City game as well. It's those 3-2 games I think that are just the best, really.
Outstanding that you threw up over someone on your first visit to Carrow Road, and
I don't
never look back.
Yeah.
Can I just ask if you've ever done that since your first game?
Well, I felt like it on Saturday at times.
Was it just after Josh Sargent missed from?
Oh yeah,
quite. There's a bit of me that twinges every time people mention the 3-2 win over Derby at Carrow Road, because I wasn't there. I was at a Lowestoft game, and it will always be a sore point, but there's nothing I can do about that. So there we go. Right. Before we crack on with this week's show, I should just say all of our thoughts are with Norwich City goalkeeper Dan Brigham. It was announced today they'd been diagnosed with testicular cancer. He's going to be taking a break from playing. And of course, he was due to spend the season on loan at Livingston while he receives treatment. All of us here wish Dan a speedy and full recovery. We can't wait to see him back playing at Carrow Road. Right, let's crack on, shall we, with this week's headline act. Sting. There is only one place to start this week, which I kind of figure is generally the case at this point. Brighton, goalless draw at Carrow Road. You know, the second goalless draw for Norwich City in the Premier League on the spin. Or maybe actually the only place to start is Josh Sargent's miss. I don't know. Maybe you can decide on that, Steve. But how did you absorb the game on Saturday?
Josh Sargent's miss from 22 yards. Is it that miss? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, when we look back at this game, if we ever look back at this game again, we would probably. Although it wasn't bad for a 0-0, to be fair, but I think that's the moment that's going to stick in everyone's memory, isn't it? And there's that awful still, isn't there? The goal's completely at his mercy, and it's kind of a bizarre miss. I don't like it. You very rarely see someone in that situation not hit it hard enough, and it wasn't really like he scuffed it. He just didn't get enough purchase on it. It's almost like, like a golfer standing over a putt and just completely misreading it and only hitting it halfway to the hole or something. And the fact that of all people, it was Shane Duffy who, you know,
Sprinted.
to stroll up to it and get it away with time to spare. I think it probably would have just about reached the goal, but only just. It kind of sums up where we are at the moment. And I think I don't want to stick the knife in too much because Sargent had a good game, but it does feel he feels very Norwich City Premier League player in that, you know, he works hard and he does a lot of good things, but ultimately doesn't do the thing that you really want him to do, which is put it in the back of the net. And I kind of think that's going to be a bit of a recurring theme for him this season. I'm sure we'll get into the performance. I thought that was much better. But yeah, that you can't help but feel after that miss that they could have won it.
I mean, he did play quite well in general, and there were some really nice turns. He probably linked the play better, Dan, than in any of his Premier League games. But as sort of Steve says, if you can't score as one of only two probably attacking players on the pitch, never mind strikers, that is a bit of an issue. I mean, if the thing about the still that Steve mentioned, the goal looks so big, and that's the just if you put him in that situation at any point, he'd have comfortably just hit the ball properly, wouldn't he? So, is that confidence or conviction or what?
Is it lack of technique? I don't know, but I think you saw kind of why he was highly rated, and you also saw why no other big club has come in from him, despite being highly rated within those 90 minutes. Because as you mentioned, he got some good turns in. He got a turn, a shot, which in the first 10 minutes, which worked really well. But then he missed an open goal, and you know when people's reaction to a miss is laughing, so immediate reaction around me where people just laugh, then you know it's kind of out of the ordinary, that miss. But I think
did you laugh, Dan? Did you laugh?
No, I didn't. There was silence from me.
Were you sick over the person in front?
I was going to ask Andy that, but I get Marco Stiepermann vibes from Josh Sargent. He is hardworking. He is capable of linking up play really well, carrying the ball really well, but he's also capable of missing open goals and shanking one over the Barkley and into the Wensum. So, and I'm yet to be convinced that he is absolutely what we need at this stage of the season. But I also remain at hope that a bit of decent coaching from Daniel Farke and he could turn into a good Premier League player. What I can say though, is that he's never been a prolific striker. That's never been his forte. His forte is finding room, good movement, linking up play. So if you do want someone on the end of an open goal, it's probably not Josh Sargent.
Which probably, I've still got this thing in my head saying, play him in midfield, which maybe he would be a really good central midfielder.
We'll put him at left back like we did with Stiepermann.
What's worse that could happen? I suppose the biggest thing, Andy, is going forwards. Because in fair play to Josh, he never hid. I mean, if that had been me, I'd have just said, look, hamstring, get me off, which probably says a lot about my character. But you know, he never stopped, you know, trying to be involved and trying to make things happen. He's obviously a young man. The one thing he needs is more conviction, not less, I suppose, going forwards. Because you know, Norwich are going to need him to play and offer a threat. Yeah,
definitely. There's a lot to admire about Josh Sargent. You know, he links up the play really well, and you know, he does work incredibly hard, but he's just not a natural finisher. You can see he's not a natural finisher, and I think his goal record suggests that as well. And that's the reason he's playing for Norwich, isn't it? If he was the finished product, he wouldn't be here. And it's just one of them. They've obviously taken a punt on him, and like I said, there is a lot to admire about him. I think his work rate's outstanding, actually, but he's just not a natural finisher, and it does boil down to that. And I think, as Steve said, I think that's going to be a recurring theme this season, isn't it? That he's just not going to get the goals that you need to keep you in the Premier League. I just don't think he is. I hope I'm proved wrong, but
too right, don't we all? So what do we do with him then? I mean, can Norwich genuinely afford to play a player who's going to run around a lot but can't score? We already feel reliant on Teemu Pukki as it is.
See, it's interesting that Dan says Marco Stiepermann. The player who I thought he would be when we signed him, or what he sounded like, was he'd be a ginger Cameron Jerome. Like I just thought he's somebody, and so far all indications are that he.
Sorry if you're watching, Cam.
Well,
that's a bit of a Cam disservice.
So here's my sort of semi-positive spin on that, is that I think he'd be a good player in the Championship, quite honestly. He looks like somebody, and let's be honest, we could be headed that way. So the problem is, you know, you spend 10 million on a centre forward and you kind of want something a little bit better than that. There's, as both Andy and Dan have said, there's a player in there. definitely. And you just got to hope that he can be coached to finish. It wasn't just that one chance, though. There were other times during the game where he just didn't quite look sharp enough. He had another in the second half where Byrne got back and tackled him. And
was that the problem? Was that the one where he was put? Because there was one, I think it's where he was put through, and he just sort of. It looked like his touch took him wide, and I thought that was a worse. Well, no, it wasn't worse, but that was just as bad because it was like that was a golden opportunity to get through on goal.
Yeah, but it goes back to that, doesn't it? You know, he just doesn't have that instinctive nature to get it out of his feet and get the shot away. It's just everything. You can always see his brain ticking over, can't you, when he's trying to control it at times.
I suppose what I would say is that he wasn't necessarily signed as someone who was definitely going to play down the middle, was he? Like if he was in a front three, for example, you'd probably happily have him playing on the right if you've got Pukki or Ida through the middle. But I'm not sure he is, and I really want to be proved wrong because I like him already and he works really hard. But I'm not sure he's a sort of a natural number 9.
Yeah, he's a top guy. Sorry, go on, Steve.
Well, I was just going to make the point that he is a little bit hamstrung. Like we'll talk about the system, I'm sure, but there's a lot of pressure on him to score goals because at the moment it's basically him and Pukki, isn't it? And that was very much the way we attacked. Every chance fell to them, and if they're not scoring, then you kind of think who else is going to.
I had a message from someone in the US who kind of said that Josh's attacking instincts were severely hampered by his spell at Bremen because as that deteriorated, so did his confidence in front of goal. So we shall see, I suppose. But you're right, Steve. I mean, it was literally, let's hit the ball forward as much as possible and see what Teemu and Josh can do with it on their own against at least a back three and probably several others. I mean, it must be said at this point, Brighton didn't have Basuma on the pitch, so they were missing arguably their best player. Which obviously helped Norwich cause a little bit. But I mean, what do you just sort of extending that point, Steve? What do Norwich do about the system? Because they've got numbers at the back, which is clearly what they're trying to do to make them look secure. But Daniel Farke clearly doesn't want to sacrifice one of his 3 midfielders to play a forward player. Whereas to me, Milot's looked pretty sharp for 2 games. He's come on for the last 10, 15 minutes. And we need to see more of him now, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing more Rashica. I have to say, I mean, I think I've given Farke a bit of stick over the last few weeks. I think he's spot on at the moment. We were so bad against Watford that we had to go back to basics and just rebuild basically. And the way to do that and to get confidence is to start keeping clean sheets. I firmly believe that. And actually, I would say since that Watford game, Everton game is probably our best performance of the season up to that point. Just about. Burnley eclipsed that, and then I think Brighton was probably better again. So we are slowly getting better, and you can see during that 90 minutes that the confidence was building, and we do have a plan. I mean, we only had 35% of the ball, which is very, very low at home. I think that's why people are getting a bit angsty about it because we're used to dominating teams, but we just can't in the Premier League. We've seen it time and time over that we cannot dominate teams. So Farke's, I think, finally identified that and said, right, well, we need to be tough at the back. There will come a point where we have to balance that with being able to score some goals, but I don't think it's now. I think we paid Brighton the right amount of respect given how well they started. We're going to have to play that way against the big team, so we're already kind of set up to play that way for next week. The problem is 2 goals in 8 games is really bad, clearly. But I don't disagree at all with the way with the formation. And I know people have pointed out individuals that should be starting or should be getting more game time. They will get it as time goes on, but I do think this is the right 11 for the moment.
1 goal from open play, don't forget as well. 1 goal from open play. Yeah. I mean, Andy, when you look at that, it's really interesting looking at the supporters because I feel like there are some who want more and they're like, what is this? This isn't what we got from Daniel Farke. This is not the free-flowing attacking football. This is what we need to, this we've lost our identity. He's not got a clue what he's doing, etc. Which, I can understand that given how much stock was placed in the way they went about it 2 years ago. So to do something completely different is quite a big take. But as Steve said, there were quite a few positives from how Norwich went about it. They did create chances. It was bang level in terms of expected goals, which I appreciate. I don't know everyone does. So, I mean, do you kind of see where both sides of the supporters' argument is at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, going back to Sargent, if he'd have scored it, I think we'd all be saying that's a really good performance, wouldn't we? Keeps a clean sheet against a decent team like that and got a goal as well. So, Defensively they look a lot better, don't they? They really do over the last couple of games. It's just trying to create. I mean, I think the midfield's not very creative, is it? I think that's not a particularly good thing, is it? And you just don't get the sense that any of them are going to chip in with the 5 or 6 goals that you're going to need, for the rest of the team. And I just think that they're so reliant on Pukki, aren't they? That's my worry. There's just no one giving him a hand at all, and they've got these 2 new wingers in Goalless and Rashica, and they're not even getting on the pitch, and they've spent quite a lot of money on them, haven't they? So it does seem. I do feel that they've got to find a way of getting some support to Pukki, because it's just not fair on him, is it? I don't think.
I find it weird that Christos Goalless did really well in his debut at Arsenal, and basically not really seen him since, which I desperately hope has not got absolutely zero to do with the penalty miss. But let's hope so. One player who does like to show a bit of creativity, Dan, although it's not necessarily in terms of goal creativity, is Matthias Norman. He's someone who knows what he's doing in terms of creating a clip for himself to go viral, isn't he? That's what I picked up on. I love him, by the way. I think he's brilliant, and I also think he's a class above most of the players we've got at the moment.
Well, you can absolutely see why Leicester City were in for him in last January, because and they recruit probably better than anyone else in the Premier League yesterday, because he is classy. He wins the ball back. Position is excellent. He's got a great long range pass on him. He moves the ball quickly, and he's got a shot on him. And he works really hard as well. I mean, it seems like his fitness probably needs to improve slightly to get through 90 minutes, but he's been outstanding in his sort of brief Norwich City career so far. And I think Lys Malou is sort of really growing into the Premier League as well. I think it was probably his best game on Saturday. I think he's made more tackles per game than any other Norwich midfielder. He puts himself about, and he's showing that he can carry the ball forward as well, which we've been missing. And just on the point of formations, I think what we should be positive about is the fact our back 5 is a Premier League worthy back 5 now. It doesn't look out of place in the Premier League. We've got 2 good attacking, combative fullbacks. Giannoulis's performances have been so far above Brandon Williams' performances since he's come in. Hanley's been outstanding in the last 2 games, been a real leader, and Gibson and Kabak have been, to most parts, pretty controlled. It's a good back 5. It's obviously, as we've discussed, the sort of ahead of them where the problems lie in terms of creativity. But as I agree with Steve, you've got to start with the base of not conceding and not losing, and then maybe you can implement put a Gilmore in or a Todd Cantwell into that midfield 3 in place of, say, Kenny McLean, and then you can build from that. What I would, but or instead of Lys Malou, but just getting a ball player in. No, exactly. It's got to be Kenny. So if you want to bring a ball player in, that's probably a natural progression. But what I would say, my real issue is this formation is, as Andy touched on, with Goalless and Rashica, 2 of our big signings. They're not really like Sargent players who play down the middle. They were clearly brought in by Webber and Farker because we were thinking of playing with more width, and that's been thrown out and replaced, understandably, because of a poor start to the season. So unless there's a change of formation, and it may even be a 3-4-3 to keep the 3 at the back, I don't see how they really have an active role in games in the current formation.
Well, I must admit, if Norwich were clever, I think, or Daniel Farke was, I would think ultimately it's the way they played at Man City, wasn't it? That was basically, or no, that was more of a 4-5-1 that became a 4-3-3. Whether you could tweak it so it's a 3-4-3 at Chelsea, then away you go. Let's get Milo on the pitch. Let's get Josh running.
It's obviously it wasn't the blueprint. Obviously, there was no way that we would have brought those players in, Rashica and Goalless, without thinking they'd get a lot of game time. And equally, this doesn't get the best out of Todd Cantwell's natural.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. Cantwell and Dowell are also obsolete in this formation because you can't really play them in that 3. I completely agree with Dan's point on Lys Malou. Actually, I thought Norman was probably our best player, but Lys Malou really impressed me, and I was not sold him at all before Saturday, but I can really see what he brings now. He won a lot of the ball, got it forward early, and that's the way that we appear to be playing now. It's trying to hit the front early, and both Norman and Lys Malou look to have a good long pass on them. So yeah, I would say Kenny is the one if anyone's going to drop out. But I don't think they will. I think he'll go the same at Chelsea.
It'll be interesting seeing Pierre play on the left, because every shooting opportunity at the moment seems to fall on his right foot, and I'm just like, just switch to get on your left, because we've seen before he can hit it with his left. I think he's probably taken every shot with his right so far. So maybe that's one to wait out for. Well, there we go. I think that was pretty positive. That felt quite good. Most positive since Watford. So there we go. That's exciting. Right. Well, I tell you what, as we approach roughly half time, he says, I'm going to stick to my time this week. Let's try to maintain our concentration with a bit of this. Genuinely forgot how good these stings were. It is a pick that one out. This is where the podders each get a window to bring up an issue they're struggling to let go. If they lose themselves for more than 30 seconds, the buzzer sounds. Oh, hang on. Oh, I'll cut this. The buzzer sounds. A bit quiet. Did you hear it? Just a bit quiet. Bit quiet. There you go. And it's time to let it go, unless you're me and you just carry on for another 2 minutes. Who would like to go first this week? Dan, our first pod together. Fancy it?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Yeah, I definitely hadn't forgotten about this section. So that's what...
I think you pretty much came up with it, didn't you? So
I did originally, yeah.
Yeah, I'm regretting that now, aren't you? Hey. Whatever did happen to things we're not going to talk about? Hey.
Maybe we could bring it forward to 15 seconds instead of 30 seconds.
I'm up for that.
Wow. We had a run of people just stopping before the buzzer went. I mean, I don't know what that's about. So none of that, please. Go on, then off you go.
I like Billy Gilmour. I think at some point he'll play a big role to play in our midfield. I think he links play really well, looks really neat and tidy, but already slightly tired of Chelsea fans and Scotland fans thinking he's the cross between Makelele and Lampard in midfield on very little evidence. And also it's Norwich fans thinking he should be playing every game. It's not really reached the territory of, say, Norwich fans thinking Redmond should play every game, or Buendia should play every game, or Wes Hoolahan should play every game. That was fair enough. We've not seen enough of Billy Gilmour yet to be demanding he plays every single game.
Have I even seen a Norwich fan demanding Billy Gilmour play every game?
Stuart Hodge must have done at some point.
He's Scottish, so that doesn't count.
Running the midfield against Israel is essentially the same as running the midfield against Preston North End, which I'm sure he'd be capable of doing in the Championship.
It does feel like Scotland fans have not seen a footballer able to pass to a fellow Scotland player ever, and all of a sudden Billy Gilmour's arrived. It's like, wow. And I look forward to Hodgie coming on next week or whenever and putting this all right.
I don't think he'll ever be back after that.
Good job, Dan. Well done. Steve, do you want to have a go?
Yeah.
Wow. Come on, we need more enthusiasm.
Okay,
guys.
Yes, I do. Okay.
Go for it.
Right, this is very loosely related to Norwich, really, but it kind of harks back to the people saying that we had no ambition because we weren't prepared to spend any money. And then the difference in the reaction to, especially yesterday with Sky, to people fawning over Newcastle's new overlords and how this level of ambition is exactly what the Premier League needs. More money. Oh, good, they can buy Coutinho and Dembele and Mbappe and all these players, and Norwich can get back to the Championship. I just think is that really where football's going? Is that really what we want to aspire to? It's not what I want to aspire to. Yeah, might drop down.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It would be hilarious if they got relegated. So
yeah, although it would make it very difficult if we got relegated with them.
We'd stay up at their expense, Steve. It'd be absolutely fine. Don't you
okay, yeah, all right.
That's clearly the plan. Andy, you ready for your pick that one out debut?
Yeah, I think so.
You're an esteemed.
No idea what I'm doing.
You're a broadcaster. This is
company.
just you doing a normal report with someone in your ear, isn't it? I think pretty much. Right. Well, when you're ready, off you go.
Yeah. Well, similar to Steve, really. I mean, it's all this anti-Norwich thing in the national media. I mean, we saw a terrible performance from Watford at the weekend. That went largely under the radar. But if Norwich put in a performance equally as bad, it doesn't. They're not worthy of a place in the Premier League. They're an embarrassment to the league. That was embarrassing from Watford on Saturday. It was awful, and I think they should have got more stick than they did. To be quite honest with you.
Oh, look
and
at that! I'm
buzzy.
I'm going to buzz you lots for that. There you go. Yes, indeed. Well, maybe TalkSport don't have an agenda against Watford, so who knows? But I did. I mean, it was quite funny how the picture is coming together, isn't it? With some teams struggling in some games that Norwich did, and Leicester beating Manchester United. What is going on, eh? So it's all around and about. I think you covered off all the ones that I was going to talk about. Neil Maupay and the penalty shout I was potentially going to bring up. the referee could have made a decision rather than just sitting there going, "Oh, I don't know. Someone tell me, have you seen it?"
Did he get? It looked like he was touched on the.
No, I thought he did.
Yeah.
So what? Is that not a penalty then? I don't know how it works.
I'm thinking about it now. I think it was probably the classic of this new genre of contact with consequence. So essentially, although they touched, I don't think it was the touch that brought him down. I think they touched while he was just sort of going down anyway. He was going quite quickly, and it was Neil Maupay. But so yeah, I would guess they looked at it and thought that touch hasn't brought you down, so we'll carry on. But clipped at high speed. I thought they were going to give it, I must admit.
If it'd been given, they wouldn't have overturned it on VAR either, would they?
But then in that point, the referee has to make a decision. He can't just stand there and go, because he didn't make a decision, did he? He literally stood there, and the players looked to him, and he's like,
"Oh, right. I thought he had.
I've got someone on the TV for this. Hang on." It's like, so that, unless I've done him a disservice, that was what it looked like to me, that he just didn't make a decision. So,
speaking of touches, we haven't talked about Krul's save yet, have we? Did he not get a finger on that one to turn? That was a really, really good stop, actually, and at a key point in the match as well.
It was a wonderful effort from Trossard, who's a very good player, like him a lot. But yeah, you could tell in real time from where we were that it just deviated the ball slightly.
And his save from Lallana's hit from outside the area was good, because you would have seen it so late as well.
Yeah, true.
Two shots on target. He saved both, basically, didn't he?
His distribution was better on Saturday as well, actually.
Yeah,
he struggled a bit with that, hasn't he? And thought he's slightly better on Saturday. So yeah, looking good.
Maupay should have scored in the second half. Yeah,
he should. Yeah, that was a guilty edge chance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Also,
is that worse than Sergeant Smith's? I think he's 5 yards out.
That was a bad miss, actually, wasn't it?
It wasn't really to hit it over the bar from that position. I might be able to answer that question though, Dan, because actually, Josh Sargent's wasn't the best chance that Norwich missed on Saturday, according to expected goals.
Pookie.
Yes. Pookie's chance where he dinked it wide of the goalkeeper. Now, I agree with you guys. I didn't think it was big. It was basically judged presumably on how close it was in.
Yeah, proximity, surely.
And they do normally take into account if they're under pressure and things, but clearly
does it take into account as a fact that there's a goalkeeper in the way for that one?
Well, it should do, shouldn't it? So for context, I'm just getting all this information off the wonderful info goal. Josh Sargent's chance had a probability of 14% that he would score. So,
what a professional footballer!
Really?
Apparently so. Yeah, there we go. I think
have they seen him shoot before? Is that one?
Yeah, that's a personal XG. I'd have probably got about 13%. Teemu Pukki's chance in the 64th minute, which he just dinked to the near post, and half the Gerald stand thought was in.
Oh, I thought it was. Did you?
I celebrated.
Did you? Oh, I was looking up, going, they're still celebrating.
Nice to celebrate a goal, though, isn't it? This season?
Yeah. They don't even care that it wasn't actually a goal. So yeah, Sargent's was 14% apparently. Pukki's chance was 42%. I mean, he didn't get to it properly. He was just too. He didn't get to the ball quickly enough to dink it, because he should have just been able to dink it over the keeper from there. It was probably quite a bad miss. Neil Maupay's chance, which was the 87th minute, 55%.
Really? Oof.
Yeah.
I suppose middle of the goal, right?
Middle of the goal, 6 yards out. 6 yards no one between him and the goalkeeper. So there we go. We were lucky, really.
That's the little bit of luck we haven't had for the rest of the season, isn't it?
Now we just got to build on it.
He missed a stitch against us for Brentford as well, didn't he?
He did. That would have been the XG on that would have been through the roof.
I won't keep you all waiting as I find that one out. I think we're done for that then. So we're not going to do a centrefold this week, I've decided, but I do want to still play the halftime sting because I love it. So here it is. Like the music, really. That's all. We are, although you may be listening to this as an audio podcast, we are live streaming it on the interweb, which you can find out on most of my channels that do video, social media channels, if you want to have a look. So we have got a few questions in. Maybe I don't know. Have you had a chance to look any, Steve? I thought maybe we could have a quick flick through some now.
Lee Widdett at 8:27 p.m. I'm going to have to give you the time.
Yeah,
It's
perfect.
not going to work for the podcast. Says, evening all, MB. I thought, as you, that the atmosphere second half on Saturday was excellent, but I've seen quite a few disagree. What do the rest of the panel think?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for flagging that one out, Steve. So I've already answered it. So you guys go. Dan?
It was raucous in the Gerald. It was really noisy. I thought it was
no
good.
one ever.
It's sort of, I didn't really think about it at the time, but thinking back on it, it didn't really go quiet. It felt like the team was backed. There was no sort of restlessness rather. I thought, the atmosphere was decent, as good as it can be for a 0-0.
Andy?
Yeah, I thought it was good, especially second half. I felt there was that chance that, with the XG that Pookie had, the chance there. I thought the crowd certainly got behind them after that, because it kind of felt like Norwich were in the ascendancy at that point. I think first half there was a little bit of nervousness around the ground. I felt like if Brighton had gone ahead with that Maupay chance when he's potentially brought down by Krul, I kind of felt it was on the edge a little bit there. But I think second half the fans were great. Yeah.
I am my piece that I wrote from the game. I think I ended up writing about Graham Potter and how that's maybe what Brighton are doing is quite an interesting path maybe for Norwich to look at, and they're probably doing it because they're just racking up goalless draws at the moment. But I was contemplating my piece, starting off with obviously it started off with Josh Sargent's miss. I was contemplating on starting it with the atmosphere in the second half, because to me I felt it was quite profound. And I don't know, maybe it was just from where I was sitting. I mean, I can normally judge whether the atmosphere is good or not, but the second half, halfway through it, I thought the whole ground came to life like it hasn't done all season. I thought it was exceptional, and obviously helped that the game was in the balance. Probably drowned out some of the boo boys in the snake pit who seem to be desperate to boo everything at the moment for some reason. But I thought the noise and the passion that they were singing some of the songs were, it was like there's just like a sudden that we just got to get on with this. Let's try and do it as one. I thought it was magnificent. So that was how it came across to me in the press box, and hopefully we have lots more of it.
I think it was shooting towards the NMP. That's what did it. They were inspired by that change. The NMP is the new Barclay.
Strikes me as unlikely. That good question, Lee. Thanks for that one. Cracking. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's move on to our wonderful bit of John Motson, shall we?
This is almost fantasy football.
I mean, what could be more fantasy football than Norwich holding Chelsea to a draw at Stamford Bridge? Could Daniel Farke even contemplate being able to do? Well, yes, because he's done it before in the FA Cup, over 120 minutes, in fact, as a championship side. So, Dan, you just do the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for that draw, and we were really impressive. It's a couple of years ago now, but 3 years ago, I'm fairly sure we played three at the back in that game as well. We did. So that's not unfamiliar to them. It is a little bit, because after Burnley and after Brighton, you kind of think, well, we're building a bit of momentum. We go into the next game with confidence. Then you remember the next game is Chelsea away. It's not Leeds at home like the following game. It's Chelsea away. What we don't want, and what we really want to avoid, is having that bubble, that small little bubble, that little bit of hope that we've got burst by a really poor performance there. But I think, as Steve alluded to earlier, the fact we've gone into had the last two games playing through at the back, which we probably would against Chelsea anyway. At least we're going into that game with a system established that we know works for us. Whether it will get us a well-earned point on the day, or even 3 points, I'm not so sure. Chelsea are a really excellent side, although they do appear to be struggling a little bit for form over the last few games, and I believe they play on Wednesday night as well, which may work in our favour with an early kickoff on Saturday.
It's only Malmo.
So I mean, they're clearly going to rest Lukaku for the big game against Norwich.
It's only Norwich as well.
He needs a goal.
Yeah. So there is a bit of hope. I think we'll go in and we'll battle. Norman, I imagine, will really fancy playing against one of the big dogs of the Premier League as well, and I hope that sort of emboldens the rest of the team as well.
Well, this is the hilarious thing about Norwich in the Premier League. Whoever they sign, they'll be really up for Chelsea away, won't they? Let's be honest. So,
Todd Campbell will be absolutely desperate to be back in that starting 11.
He will. I'm just going to reiterate this point as well on Todd, because I think Daniel Farke had his press conference on Friday and was like, "Oh, Todd's trained, so he's back available," and everyone was like, "All right, so Todd will start." But there was so much of what Daniel Farke said, which is basically that he hadn't trained properly for several weeks. He's had some family stuff to deal with, as we all do at times. It just happens. So, he and Daniel Farke said he's once he gets his consistency back in training, then we'll start to really get him involved and things like that. So it wasn't really that much of a surprise he wasn't involved in the squad, but I think a lot of people were expecting that to be the case. So whether Chelsea comes too soon, I don't know. A full week next week, I don't think he's involved, and then we can get stuck into the debate as to whether his position actually exists in the team or not in terms of actual where he can play. Andy, someone reminded me today, Andy, that Chelsea actually lost 5-2 at home to West Brom in an early kickoff last season.
That's true.
So they are primed for a freak result, which is obviously what we're dealing with here.
Well, it would be a freak result because Norwich would have to score, wouldn't they?
Yeah, five.
Yeah,
Can you imagine that?
Yeah,
Josh Sargent hat trick. Oh,
that would be amazing. It's a big ask, isn't it? And I think Dan's right. It's a nightmare game, isn't it? You just want to build on that momentum, don't you? And it's got the potential to be pretty scary. Especially, I don't like the fact Lukaku hasn't scored for a while. That normally doesn't end well, does it? It's normally the perfect team to play against, isn't it, Norwich? But they are looking better defensively. So let's just hope they can frustrate them and maybe nick one on the break. I mean, I'm sure that'll be the game plan. And I presume he won't change the team. I think he'll go unchanged again.
I would imagine that will be the case. Injuries permitting. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist, Steve. I rock up at any game and think, well, there's always a way where you can get something from a game. I'm very rarely look at the team and go, that's really, really negative, because you can always break forward. Someone will always cross the halfway line, and that's normally enough to get me half excited. So I suppose there's always a bit of hope for that.
Yeah, there might be a bit of crossing the halfway line. We might do some of that. I like the idea of us scoring 5, having got 6 away from home since and Farke's entire tenure. Just bagging 5 at Stamford Bridge would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I think. I mean, it's going to be the same team, right? And it's the same setup. And I have a feeling we might be quite obdurate and difficult to break down initially. I can't see us lasting 90 minutes somehow. And obviously we've kind of got to score at some point, and I don't see that happening either.
No, we don't. I 0-0. Take it. Go. We'd all be happy with it.
Win, I guess. It's a weird choice of TV game, isn't it? I mean, top against bottom. I think they have to pick them at some point. I think that's the logic. But you kind of think Chelsea at home. Sorry, Dan, what are you going to say?
I was just the fact it is top v bottom gives me the most hope, because so often that's a banana skin for the top team. And I also saw the last 15-20 minutes of the Chelsea-Brentford game at the weekend, and God knows Brentford have got enough praise already, but they absolutely battered Chelsea for the last 15 minutes. Didn't find a way through. Keeper made some stunning saves, but Chelsea are fallible at the moment. They're not quite in their groove yet, so it might not be the worst time to play them.
I think the other thing with the lineup that you very much prioritise for Burnley and Brighton, I think I'll do the same here, is that we've got big players in the team now, haven't we? And as in physically tall, to counter Burnley's obvious threat. Brighton had 3 massive centre halves, and Chelsea will play with 3 centre halves and Lukaku as well. Potentially, Reece James is quite a tall guy, so is Chilwell. So I can't imagine him throwing Cantwell back in. I know we can't do that against every team, but purely for those physical reasons, I see it being McLean, Lees-Malou, Norman again.
Obviously, I guess a Farke-Tuchel line might be something that's semi-interested. And there'll be no Billy Gilmour, of course, because he's ineligible due to his loan agreement, obviously. We'll have to see how it all gets taken on. It will be fascinating. Thomas Frank, I think, was saying if Brentford had played that game 9 times out of 10, they would have won. Obviously, ignoring the fact that their dominance came in only the last 20 minutes. Don't worry about that, Thomas. I don't want to. I can't say anything about Brentford, can I? They're
you hate him. You hate Thomas Frank.
I don't hate him. He just amuses me. And that is enough of the amusement, I think. In that case, I think we're probably done for time. Why not? Okay, well, that's it for the 83rd edition of On the Ball. Norwich City podcast that might well avoid Chelsea because they play in blue. If you yet to do so, make sure you subscribe via our podcast player of choice, or your podcast player of choice might be even better. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player, and we are now streaming the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels. Just search Michael Bailey, The Athletic, Norwich City, and your preferred social media platform, and hopefully it'll show up. Ratings and reviews wherever prompted are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, sling me a direct message on Twitter. At Michael J. Bailey is the handle. A big thank you to our guests tonight. Steve, as always, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
Dan, we've broken our duck for the season. Happy days.
Thanks, Michael.
And Andy, debut, happy with that?
Yeah, decent debut. Yeah,
Decent
better
debut.
than my first game watching Norwich, wasn't it?
Well, you haven't thrown up yet, although we do still have the credits to go. So lovely to have you on. We'll do it again.
Yeah, brilliant.
Top man, brilliant stuff. Right, we will be back next week with loads more Canary capers. Just a little bit of time to flag up. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna flag it up. Have a look at the Athletic this week. It'll be really exciting. We'll be back for loads more Canary capers in a week's time for the On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. And we're clear. And possibly one of the worst outros I've ever read on the podcast. That was exciting. Steve, Dan, Andy, all you Twitterers out there, welcome to Wits End. If you're wondering what you've stumbled across for the first time or what's going on, then listen to On the Ball, podcast number 42. It went live on September the 8th, 2020. And it's all explained there. That was before the start of last season. Goodness me. You can email this bonus part of the podcast directly with an email to Twitterkers, Twitter, Kers, Twitterkers @icloud.com, or use the hashtag Twitterkers on Twitter. Just don't explain what it refers to, because this is a secret club only for those who discover it, which is kind of why I got my knickers in a twist then, because I was going to flag up my Ruel Fox interview, which is hopefully going live tomorrow. And then I didn't want to and thought, I could do it on Twitterkers. And then I realized I couldn't say I was doing that on Wits End because that's secret. So I just cut my losses and dove straight out of there. So dived.
Dove. I'm not having dived.
Dove.
Past participle of dive. Dived, please. Sorry.
Dove.
Just I don't like Americanism. Don't know why I got so angry.
Was it? Is that an? You know what?
That's Norfolkism, isn't it? That's not Americanism.
Okay. Well, I'd like to apologise to our Norfolk listeners, which is probably the majority of our audience. Very sorry.
They all went after Hodgie did a Norfolk impression, I think, didn't they? I can't remember. I mean, I'm much better when I can write words out and I get a red squiggly line underneath, so I know if it's accurate or not. What
did Ruel Fox have to say for himself?
There's lots of stuff. We spoke about loads of things. What I'd really wanted to talk to him about. We spoke about a lot about Whitton United and him growing up. A bit of Norwich, a little bit of Newcastle and Spurs and West Brom, quite a bit about the racism he had to deal with when he was a player, and Black History Month, some really interesting stuff on that. I'm sure there's lots of other things. We talked about him driving around Norwich, being given cars by sponsors and not having a driving license. That was quite a lively bit. But the thing I wanted to talk to him about was managing Montserrat. Which was at the time the worst ranked country in all of the FIFA rankings. 207. It's a volcanic Caribbean island. So just lovely. I got to spend loads of time with him. We went and had beans on toast at his cafe not his cafe, but the cafe near him. And it's probably the most fun I've had in Ipswich ever.
He was an Ipswich fan, right? Did he not grow up an Ipswich fan?
He grew up in Ipswich, but he was a Manchester United and a West Brom fan, really. And he did used to go to Portman Road sometimes, but he used to break in at half time, so he didn't have to pay. So I think we can forgive him.
I mean, why would you pay to?
I think ultimately that all works out. So my Ruel Fox interview. What a guy.
What did he say about Montserrat?
Well,
Because he
you
played
have
for
to
them as
read
well,
the
didn't he?
piece.
Did he
He
play
did
for
play
them?
for him, yeah.
He did play. Yeah, he went out to manage them, and I think he had a few training sessions and sort of thought, you know what, I've still got it. So he ended up playing.
Wow.
He scored a penalty on his international debut, and then pulled his calf in his second game. And that was that. It's a wonderful story. So that's grand. So yeah, happy days. That's a good plug for Wits End. Anyone got anything they really want to bring up before I start bringing in the thing I really only do this entire podcast for?
Other than to say Raw Fox was the first footballer that made me think, as a shorter person and a short boy, that you could actually be good at football, but B, really good at heading the ball as well, because he was outstanding at leaping, and it's showing my age now, which is about the same as yours, Michael, but he was outstanding at scoring headers. I don't think he scored many, but when he did, because he was he's 5'6", probably,
Yeah,
5'5",
yeah.
5'6". He would thunder above like huge centre backs to score like 3 or 4 headers, I remember, and that really gave me confidence. I mean, it didn't translate into any sort of ability, but it gave me the confidence to try.
What's your leap like, Dan? Can you?
Just these days, it's staying firmly planted on the ground and waiting for the ball to drop onto my head instead.
Oh, clever movement. That'll do it. I mean, I think at the time when Chris Sutton was sold, you were kind of like, okay, well, Chris Sutton was probably going to go, although there was obviously a bit of a ruckus with Robert Chase. I think but Real Fox was kind of the one where it was like, oh, that's not good, because that's like, we don't need to sell him. Why is he off? And that's, you sort of feared that the squad was being broken up at that point, which made it a very painful loss, actually. I thought losing Rule. He didn't want to go. So there we go.
He scored against us, didn't he, for Newcastle as well on his return?
Oh, did he? Oh, I can't remember that.
Wow.
Probably best.
Penalty.
Us 31-year-olds on the pod have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, who's Will Fox?
Well, this is history,
Who?
boys. So lap it up, learn something. There you go. Well, I have got great news. I have compiled my Mark Libra Norwich City star sign list, which I'm hoping we'll get to add one to every week. But I would need people to submit a new one every week to achieve that. But for the record, let me just list what we've got so far. I got the ball rolling with Wesley Huliohan. This is obviously off the back of Mark Libra being a star sign, and I wrote a piece on his Norwich City debut and his wonderful goal, of course. We added to that, we had Leon McKenzie from John Rogers. So there are Leos. Gemini Goss was still my favorite. Happy with that one. We then had Max Aries from Tom Parsley, which I think just about works. Danny Tianti got in touch then with Tor Russ Martin. Maybe that works better as Russell. Tor Russell Martin. Yeah, works better as Tor Russell. I'll update that. Matt Rushbrook also messaged me. I think he did that on Twitter, because I think you picked up on that a few weeks ago, Steve, with Vergoran Maric. And Elliot Lake chipped in live on the podcast with Josh Sargentarius, which is for a live spontaneous action. It's wonderful. I have had an email for this week's contributions. Let's go. Oh, I've had 2. Was the other one an email? No, the other one was a message from Paul Byrne. Hello, Paul. He came up to me actually at the Norwich City Fan Social Club quiz night I was hosting the other week. Came up to me and said, star signs. You still doing the star signs? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean star signs? No, the Norwich City star signs. I was like, yes, got you. So he said, I've got one for you. Sagittarian Bennett.
Surely Sagittarian Culverhouse or something like that. Or Sagittarian Crook would be better, wouldn't it? I mean,
Sagittarian Crook.
I reckon we could probably keep this going all season if they're all bad.
Oh yeah, I mean? No, there's no bar.
They're all really bad. Like you could just have like Timu Pisces or something like that.
What we don't want is a good one ruining it all.
Yeah, exactly. Keep them
like
Gemini terrible, please, people.
Well, the only one I had was Taurus or Martin, and that's been denied now. That's just been snatched away from me.
Sorry. Well, look, how about these?
And then we can ask how often Andy Ward gets mistaken for Russell Martin.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, you do look like him.
Yeah, well, apparently so. Yeah. He's a lot richer than I am, though.
He owns a restaurant in Norwich.
No.
Yeah, he does.
Hang on.
Great restaurant, actually.
Great restaurant.
If you go in, do they go, "Hey, Russ"?
I've actually met. You won't believe this. I've met Russ and Martin on a stag do in Budapest. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
What?
Yeah,
When was this?
Generally did. It was a few years ago.
Okay. Do we get to tie this in with a Norwich performance, or was it?
No, and me and my mates are obviously hitting the town in Budapest, and then one of my mates sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "That's Russ and Martin," and it generally was Russ and Martin, and he brought us all around the drinks. He's a great bloke.
Oh, what a guy!
Wow, if he does
it was just such a coincidence that all my mates have always said I look like Russ and Martin, and there he was in Budapest, and he's teetotal as well. He doesn't drink. He doesn't drink a thing.
No.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He was with Sergio Torres. I don't know if you remember him. It was his stag do.
Oh yeah.
He used to play
for
for Crawley, so it's his stag do in Budapest. So the rest of the sort of stag party were getting absolutely wasted, and Russell was on the waters all night.
What a guy. You know what? He'd be fine on the waters. He'd top man. Was he dressed up in anything in particular?
Oh yeah. Look very smart. Very smart.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Like I said, the fact he brought us all around the drinks was fantastic, really.
I mean,
did he admit that you looked like him? Did
he did. Yeah, he's a good looking bloke. And
right. That's about right. I was hoping. I know you said he dressed smartly. I was hoping you were going to say he was like dressed like a Smurf or something. But
no.
Right. Well, back to the star signs, if I may. Alan Montgomery got in touch via email. Good evening, Michael and Twitterkers. There you go, everyone. He's emailed all of us. Just a couple of Norwich star sign puns. Ozan Cabaquarius. Come on.
Yeah,
Kabak.
That's okay.
Yeah. Give him something.
Okay. Yeah. Not bad. 6 out of 10.
And we've got two more. Leroy Fergo.
Yeah.
That's decent.
That works. Yep, that works.
Steve can't do it without sighing. One for the older listeners. Terry Zorcock.
That sounds a bit seedy, to be honest.
Well, you've made it that. Alan signs off by saying cheers, brackets, or sorry. Definitely cheers, Alan.
Are we allowed non-players?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, Norwich connections is all right. Yeah, we're desperate. Yeah.
Chris Caprigorum.
Capricorum. I think. Yeah. I think that's
as bad as anyone else has offered.
I thought when you said we allowed non-players, you're just going to do like John Virgo or something like that.
By fairness, that would be on Mark Libra level of success, really, wouldn't it? Well, okay, I think we're done that for this week because we've lost a lot of people watching and listening by this point.
Capricorn Smith.
Better.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Redeemed myself there.
Corey Smith, like that. On that note, unless anyone's got any other business,
no, I'm out of creativity after.
I think. Yeah, that's kind of killed it, really, hasn't it? We'll bear that in mind for future. But if anyone does have their Norwich City star signs, please submit them. You can email them twitterkers@icloud.com, twitterkers@icloud.com, or the hashtag Twitterkers. Don't explain what. Just put them there, and I'll go, "What's that?" Oh yeah, I remember. And we'll probably read them out if we can drip feed them in. In that case, I think we're done. So that's how to get in touch with us. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone now because it's been a wonderful pod. Andy, Dan, Steve, thank you so much. If I can coordinate you all saying goodbye on 3, that would be great. 1, 2, 3.
Goodbye.
Look at that. They're so excited. That's it. Until next time, that's a wrap. That's the end of the podcast. Bye, boys. Wave. You can wave. There you go. There you go. Look at that. Oh, there you go. I'm going to skip them all out. What a bunch of top guys. There we go. Right. We're done with the pod. Hope you all enjoyed that. Hang on. I haven't muted you yet, Dan. There you go. Right. Thanks, everyone. Well, there weren't too many disasters in there, so that was lots of fun. Hope you enjoyed it all. Thanks to your messages. We'll try and get them involved as we go along in the future podcasts, as I said. And yeah, we'll do it again next week, Monday, 8:00. Not sure who we got on, but I'm sure it'll be Aces. I wonder if Steve's hosting next week. I think it might be a Steve hosting week next week. So enjoy that. Enjoy your week. I'll be at Stamford Bridge on Saturday, so I'll be doing a video for that, of course. In the meantime, have a wonderful week. Enjoy yourselves, and see you again very soon. Good night.